And we're just going through some student questions that came up in a webinar recently. And for all of my webinars, I'll typically go back and pick up any questions that we didn't get to in the live chat. So when you join a webinar, we interact with all the students that are watching, and we give them a chance to ask questions. But I don't always get to all the questions, so I'll go back and answer them and pop them on the YouTube channel. So in this webinar, we were talking about academic writing, and the question from this student is that they were told, obviously, I guess, by an examiner or their supervisor in marking perhaps some of their writing, that their arguments were not consistent and what could have gone wrong. So I think this probably comes down to a lack of clearly defining the problem statement and possibly some of the research questions. And in my research proposals course, I teach the importance of defining a good thesis statement and a problem statement and some research questions, which will then guide and define your research journey. Because when you come to write about those topics, if you haven't clearly thought through them and defined them in your research proposal, then chances are when you come to write down those arguments and use the data that you've gathered and the analysis that you've done on that data to answer your research questions in support of addressing that problem statement, your arguments might be inconsistent. So if your topic and your thesis up front is not clear or inconsistent and you haven't defined that well, then it's highly likely that will feed into inconsistent arguments down the track like the student has experienced.